Be still for a moment. Notice how quickly the mind wants to speak, to explain, to announce, to prove. We are living in a time where people talk more than they train, announce more than they build, and describe the future instead of becoming it. Today is not about motivation. It is about discipline, and discipline begins with silence. If you want a different life in 2026, stop telling people what is happening in your life. Here are 10 lessons. Lesson 1. Silence protects direction. Every time you speak about your plans, you leak energy. Words feel like progress, but they are not. Progress happens when no one is watching, when no one is applauding. When there is only you and the work, silence is not weakness, silence is containment. Lesson 2. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. When you talk about your goals, you invite opinions. Opinions dilute focus. Focus is fragile. A distracted mind cannot master anything. Protect your attention as you would protect your body, because whatever has your attention shapes your life. Lesson 3. Discipline is louder than explanation. Strong people do not explain themselves. They demonstrate. You do not need to convince anyone of your path. The result will speak for you. If you feel the urge to explain, ask yourself, am I seeking validation or transformation? Lesson 4. Your mouth should rest while your body works. The body understands truth before the mind does. Train it, push it, make it uncomfortable. A tired body with a calm mind is more powerful than a clever mouth with no strength behind it. Let your sweat answer questions words cannot. Lesson 5. Privacy builds strength. Not everything needs to be shared. Not everyone deserves access. What is sacred must be guarded. Your vision is fragile in its early stages. Expose it too soon, and it will break. Grow in private, bloom in public. Lesson 6. Consistency is the real confidence. Confidence does not come from telling people what you will do. It comes from knowing you will do it even when no one is watching. One day of discipline builds trust with yourself. That trust is unshakable. Lesson 7. Ego speaks. Purpose listens. The ego wants recognition now. Purpose is patient. If you are always talking about your future, you may be avoiding the discomfort of the present. Sit with the discomfort. That is where change happens. Lesson 8. Results require emptiness. A cup that is already full cannot receive more. If your mind is full of noise, comparison, and constant expression, there is no space for mastery. Empty the mind. Return to basics. Do the simple things well, every day. Lesson 9. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey. Some people will doubt you. Some will misunderstand you. That is not your problem. Your responsibility is not to be understood. Your responsibility is to be aligned. Walk your path quietly. Let life reveal the meaning later. Lesson 10. Become first. Announce never. Do not tell people who you are becoming. Become it. Do not describe the future. Create it. In 2026, let people say, "When did this happen?" And you will smile because you know it happened in silence, in discipline, in moments no one saw. Stop talking. Start training. The rest will follow. Silence preserves power because energy follows expression. The moment something is spoken, it leaves you. Before words, there is concentration. After words, there is distribution. Every plan, every intention, every inner movement contains a certain force, and that force is limited. When you speak too early, too often, or too loosely, you divide that force among listeners who may not carry it with care. Silence keeps the energy gathered. It allows it to mature instead of evaporate. Silence is not the absence of thought. It is the discipline of holding thought without releasing it. This restraint trains the mind to tolerate pressure. Most people speak because they cannot sit with inner tension. They want relief. Talking feels like relief. It feels like progress, but relief is not growth. Growth often feels heavy, quiet, and lonely. Silence teaches you to remain steady inside that weight without needing approval or acknowledgement. When you are silent, you are observing. You notice patterns in yourself that noise would cover. You see where your motivation weakens, where your habits break, where excuses form. Speech distracts from this observation. Silence sharpens it. The mind becomes like still water. In still water, everything becomes visible. In disturbed water, nothing is clear. Silence also removes performance. When you speak about what you are doing or planning, part of you starts performing an identity. You begin to act for the image rather than the reality. You protect the story instead of the work. Silence removes the audience. Without an audience, there is no need to pretend. You confront who you are when no one is listening. That confrontation is where power is built. Power is not loud. It does not rush to announce itself. It accumulates slowly, like pressure underground. The earth does not explain how it forms mountains. It remains silent, and one day the surface changes. People who lack power seek attention. People who are building power avoid it. Attention pulls you outward. Silence pulls you inward, and all real strength is developed inward first. Silence preserves power because it protects direction. When you speak, you invite interference. Opinions enter, doubt enters, praise enters. All of these can bend your path. Even positive feedback can weaken discipline by giving satisfaction before results are earned. Silence keeps the path narrow. Narrow paths are easier to walk consistently. Wide paths invite wandering. In silence, you act for reasons that are yours alone. This creates internal authority. You stop depending on external reactions to measure your worth. Instead, you measure yourself by effort, consistency, and integrity. This internal measurement system is stable. External validation is unstable. Silence removes the noise of comparison. You stop asking where you stand relative to others and start asking whether you stood firm today. There is also power in being unreadable. When people know your plans, they form expectations. Expectations create pressure. Pressure can rush decisions that need patience. Silence gives you time. Time allows refinement. What begins as a rough intention becomes precise through quiet repetition. Silence is where mistakes are corrected before they become public failures. The body understands silence naturally. Muscles grow in rest, not in display. Training happens in repetition, not in explanation. A practitioner does not become strong by talking about strength. The body responds to stress and recovery, not to words. Silence aligns the mind with this natural law. It teaches you to value process over expression. Silence also strengthens resilience. When you do not speak about your struggles, you learn to carry them. Carrying weight builds capacity. Sharing too quickly can reduce that capacity. Some burdens are meant to be held, not handed off. Silence teaches endurance. It teaches you that discomfort does not need commentary. It simply needs presence. Many people fear silence because it removes distraction. In silence, excuses are louder. Weakness is exposed. There is no story to hide behind. This exposure is uncomfortable, but it is honest. Power grows from honesty. When you see yourself clearly, without explanation or defense, you gain the ability to change what you see. Silence also refines intention. When you are not speaking, you are listening. You listen to your breath. You listen to your reactions. You listen to subtle resistance. This listening turns impulse into awareness. Awareness turns impulse into choice. Choice is power. Speech often bypasses this process by releasing impulse immediately. Silence creates mystery, and mystery commands respect, not because it is manipulative, but because it signals depth. People sense when someone is not scattered. A quiet presence suggests alignment. Alignment suggests strength. Strength does not need to declare itself. In silence, actions become deliberate. You move slower, but with more accuracy. You stop wasting effort on unnecessary reactions. You conserve energy. Conserved energy compounds. Over time, this compounding becomes visible as stability, clarity, and quiet confidence. Silence is also protection from self-sabotage. When plans remain internal, they are flexible. You can adjust without feeling like you failed publicly. You can change direction without explaining yourself. This flexibility keeps momentum alive. Speaking too soon locks you into an identity you may outgrow before the work is done. Silence preserves power because it keeps your relationship with effort clean. You work because the work must be done, not because someone is watching. This purity of effort is rare. It creates depth. Depth creates mastery. Mastery does not announce itself early. It arrives when repetition has reshaped the person doing it. When you are silent, you are harder to influence. You are not reacting to every comment, suggestion, or judgment. You choose what enters your mind. This choice strengthens autonomy. Autonomy is a form of power that cannot be taken, only given away through careless expression. Silence also aligns with patience. Talking often comes from urgency. Urgency comes from fear of being left behind. Silence accepts time. It trusts accumulation. It understands that what is real does not need to hurry. Patience allows you to stay with practices long enough for them to transform you. In silence, you develop a private standard. You know when you did enough. You know when you fell short. This knowledge does not need witnesses. It sharpens accountability. Accountability without an audience is one of the strongest forms of discipline. Silence reduces friction. Many conflicts are born from unnecessary words. When you speak less, you preserve emotional energy. That energy can be redirected into training, learning, refining. Silence simplifies life. Simplicity creates focus. Focus creates power. There is also humility in silence, not the humility of shrinking, but the humility of knowing that becoming takes time. Silence respects the process. It does not rush to claim outcomes that have not yet been earned. This respect keeps arrogance from weakening effort. Silence preserves power because it keeps the inner fire contained. A flame exposed to wind flickers and dies. A flame protected grows stronger. The mind is the same. Protect it from constant exposure. Allow it to burn steadily. When silence becomes a habit, presence deepens. You are fully where you are. You are not narrating life as it happens. You are living it. This presence sharpens perception. Sharpened perception leads to better decisions. Decisions made in silence are usually calmer. Calm decisions are usually stronger. Strength does not always look aggressive. Often it looks unhurried, grounded, and precise. Silence is not withdrawal from the world. It is preparation. It is choosing to build before showing. It is understanding that what lasts is formed away from noise. It is trusting that when the time comes, no explanation will be needed because the change will already be visible in how you move, how you respond, how you endure, how you stand when pressure arrives. Discipline replaces explanation because action removes the need for defense. When your life is guided by discipline, there is nothing to justify. Explanation is usually born from inconsistency. When behavior and intention do not align, words rush in to fill the gap. Discipline closes that gap. It aligns what you say with what you do so tightly that speech becomes unnecessary. Most explanations are attempts to manage perception. They are not about truth, they are about control. Control over how others see us, how they judge us, how they evaluate our worth. Discipline does not seek control over perception. It seeks control over behavior. Behavior is the only thing you truly own. When behavior is solid, perception becomes irrelevant. Discipline simplifies life. When rules are clear, decisions become easy. There is no internal debate to explain why something was not done. Either it was done or it was not. Explanation thrives in complexity. Discipline thrives in simplicity. Wake up, do the work, repeat. This rhythm removes the need for storytelling. People often explain because they want understanding, but understanding from others does not create strength. Strength is created when you understand yourself. Discipline is a language you speak inwardly. It teaches you where your limits are real and where they are imagined. Each time you keep a commitment without announcing it, you reinforce self-trust. That trust is more valuable than being understood. Explanation is usually reactive. Someone asks, doubts, questions, and you respond. Discipline is proactive. It acts before doubt has a chance to grow. When your days are structured by disciplined practice, external questions lose their power. You are too occupied with execution to entertain distractions. Discipline replaces explanation because it removes excuses at the root. Excuses need an audience. Discipline does not. Excuses soften failure. Discipline exposes it. Exposure hurts, but it teaches. When you miss a day, discipline does not allow you to hide behind reasons. It forces you to see the cost of inconsistency clearly. A disciplined person does not need to say they are disciplined. It shows in posture, timing, tone, and restraint. There is a quiet order in their movement. They arrive prepared. They respond instead of react. These signals cannot be faked for long. Explanation can be practiced. Discipline must be lived. Explanation often comes from guilt. Guilt from knowing what should have been done. Discipline reduces guilt by reducing avoidance. When effort becomes non-negotiable, guilt has less space to grow. There is peace in knowing that even on difficult days, you did what was required. Discipline also creates boundaries. When boundaries are clear, fewer explanations are needed. You do not need to justify why you cannot do something when your schedule already has a purpose. A disciplined life is full. Fullness leaves no room for unnecessary negotiation. Many people talk about their values. Discipline turns values into habits. Habits do not argue, they operate. When your values are embedded in routine, you no longer need to explain what you stand for. Your calendar reveals it, your energy reveals it, your consistency reveals it. Explanation often aims to soften judgment. Discipline accepts judgment without resistance. It does not ask to be spared. It relies on time to prove itself. Time is fair. Time rewards repetition. Words cannot compete with that. Discipline also replaces explanation internally. The mind is the first audience we try to convince. We explain to ourselves why we should delay, why today is different, why tomorrow will be better. Discipline interrupts this inner dialogue. It does not debate, it directs, it shortens the distance between intention and action. When discipline is present, motivation becomes less important. Motivation needs explanation when it disappears. Discipline remains regardless of mood. This stability creates momentum. Momentum silences doubt. Doubt often fuels the need to explain. Explanation seeks sympathy. Discipline builds capability. Sympathy feels comforting but changes little. Capability changes outcomes. A capable person does not need sympathy. They rely on skill, preparation, and endurance. Discipline also teaches humility. It reminds you daily of what you cannot yet do. There is no illusion. You face your current capacity honestly. Explanation often inflates identity. Discipline keeps it grounded. Grounded identity is harder to shake. In disciplined practice, repetition becomes a teacher. Each repetition refines technique. There is no explanation between repetitions. Only feedback. Feedback is honest. Words can be dishonest. Discipline accepts feedback without emotional negotiation. When mistakes happen, discipline corrects quietly. Explanation magnifies mistakes by keeping attention on them. Discipline acknowledges error, adjusts, and continues. This forward movement prevents stagnation. Discipline creates predictability. Predictability builds reliability. Reliable people are trusted. Trust eliminates the need for explanation. When others know you will show up and deliver, they stop asking why. Explanation often arises from fear of being misjudged. Discipline replaces fear with confidence rooted in evidence. Evidence is accumulated effort. Effort leaves a record. That record speaks. Discipline is also an act of respect. Respect for time, for craft, for commitment. When respect is embodied, it does not need to be declared. Declaration without embodiment feels hollow. A disciplined life has fewer dramatic moments. It is quiet, repetitive, sometimes boring. Explanation loves drama. Discipline avoids it. Drama consumes energy. Discipline conserves it. Over time, discipline shapes identity. You no longer ask who you are becoming. You see it in what you do daily. This clarity removes the urge to explain yourself to others. You are not confused, so you do not seek confirmation. Discipline also reduces conflict. Clear standards reduce misunderstandings. When expectations are met consistently, fewer conversations are needed. Silence replaces negotiation. Explanation tries to control outcomes after the fact. Discipline controls inputs beforehand. Inputs determine outcomes. Focusing on inputs is more effective than defending results. Discipline demands presence. You cannot be disciplined while distracted. This presence sharpens awareness. Awareness improves quality. Quality makes explanation redundant. There is also dignity in discipline, not the pride that seeks recognition, but the dignity of self-command. Self-command is felt, not announced. It stabilizes you in uncertain environments. Discipline replaces explanation because it builds credibility over time. Credibility cannot be rushed. It cannot be argued into existence. It must be earned repeatedly. Earned credibility is heavy. It carries weight. Weight bends conversations in your favor without effort. When discipline becomes the foundation, words become optional. You speak when necessary, not when insecure. You explain when clarity is required, not when approval is desired. Speech becomes precise because it is no longer compensating for lack of action. A disciplined person moves forward even when misunderstood. They do not stop to clarify every step. They trust the process more than perception. This trust frees energy for progress. Explanation often delays action. Discipline accelerates it. The less you talk, the sooner you start. The sooner you start, the less you have to explain. Discipline also builds patience with others. When you hold yourself to high standards, you stop expecting perfection from the world. This reduces reactive speech. You choose silence instead of justification. Over time, discipline reshapes how you are seen. Not through claims, but through consistency. People adjust their expectations to your behavior. Once expectations are aligned, explanation fades. Discipline replaces explanation because it resolves questions before they are asked. It answers doubt with repetition. It answers skepticism with endurance. It answers criticism with improvement. When discipline is present, life becomes quieter, not empty but orderly. In that order, there is strength. In that strength, there is no need to explain yourself to anyone. Including yourself, privacy accelerates growth because growth is fragile in its early stages. Before strength is formed, it is easily distorted by exposure. When something is new, it needs protection, not attention. Privacy provides that protection. It creates a space where effort can be imperfect without consequence, where learning can be slow without judgment, where failure can happen without becoming an identity. When you grow in private, you remove the pressure to perform. Performance divides focus. Part of your energy goes into the task. Another part goes into how the task is perceived. This division weakens learning. Privacy reunites attention. All energy returns to the process. This concentration speeds development because nothing is wasted on appearance. Privacy allows honesty. In public, people edit themselves. They hide weakness, exaggerate confidence, avoid admitting confusion. In private, there is no reason to pretend. You can face exactly where you are without distortion. This clarity is essential for progress. You cannot correct what you refuse to see. Growth requires repetition. Repetition is often boring. It does not look impressive. Privacy removes the need for excitement. You are free to repeat the same small actions without explaining why they matter. Over time, these repetitions accumulate into skill. Skill is never built in moments designed to impress. Privacy also shields motivation. When you share goals too early, motivation shifts. You begin to work for approval instead of improvement. Approval is unpredictable. Improvement is controllable. Privacy keeps motivation internal. Internal motivation lasts longer because it is not dependent on reaction. Many people confuse accountability with exposure. They believe they need others to watch them in order to stay consistent. This creates fragile discipline. When no one is watching, effort drops. Privacy trains a stronger form of accountability. You become answerable to your own standards. This form of accountability does not disappear when conditions change. Privacy accelerates growth because it reduces comparison. In public spaces, comparison is constant. You measure your beginning against someone else's middle or end. This distorts self-assessment. It either inflates ego or creates discouragement. Both slow progress. Privacy removes unnecessary reference points. You compete only with yesterday's version of yourself. When growth is private, mistakes become information instead of embarrassment. Embarrassment creates avoidance. Avoidance stops learning. In privacy, mistakes are neutral. They are simply feedback. You adjust and continue. This loop of attempt, error, and correction becomes faster when shame is removed. Privacy also preserves flexibility. Early growth often requires experimentation. You try methods, discard them, adjust direction. When your process is public, change feels like inconsistency. You hesitate to adapt because others are watching. Privacy allows evolution without explanation. You can pivot quietly toward what works. There is also safety in privacy. Not everyone wants you to grow. Some will doubt, some will envy, some will project their limitations onto you. Privacy limits exposure to this interference. It keeps external noise from becoming internal resistance. Growth needs a clean environment. Privacy teaches patience. When no one knows what you are building, there is no pressure to show results quickly. You allow time to do its work. You understand that depth cannot be rushed. Patience improves quality. Quality improves durability. Growth often requires confronting uncomfortable truths, weak habits, inconsistent effort, shallow commitment. These confrontations are easier when private. You do not have to protect an image while dismantling it. You are free to rebuild without witnesses. Privacy also changes how you measure progress. Instead of milestones designed for display, you focus on indicators that matter. Strength, control, precision, endurance, these qualities are felt before they are seen. Privacy trains sensitivity to internal signals. This awareness guides training more accurately than applause ever could. When growth happens privately, confidence becomes quieter. It is not announced, it is embodied. You move differently, you respond differently. This confidence is stable because it is based on experience, not affirmation. Affirmation can disappear overnight. Experience remains. Privacy accelerates growth because it aligns effort with truth. Public narratives often simplify reality. They compress complex journeys into neat stories. Privacy allows complexity. You can struggle without narrating the struggle. You can improve without labeling the improvement. In private growth, setbacks do not become setbacks. They become part of training. There is no audience to disappoint, no expectation to violate. You simply continue. This continuity is essential. Growth rarely comes from dramatic breakthroughs. It comes from uninterrupted practice. Privacy also sharpens discipline. When no one is watching, only discipline remains. You discover whether your commitment is real or conditional. This discovery is valuable. It shows you where work is needed. Public commitment can hide weak discipline behind promises. Privacy exposes it. Privacy creates intimacy with the process. You know every detail of your effort, every adjustment, every improvement. This intimacy builds respect for the craft. Respect deepens engagement. Engagement accelerates learning. When growth is private, success feels different. It is quieter. It does not need confirmation. You recognize it internally before it is visible externally. This recognition is satisfying because it reflects real change, not reaction. Privacy also protects joy. When progress is constantly shared, joy becomes performative. You feel obligated to be excited. In private, joy is simple. It arises naturally from improvement. It does not need to be justified or displayed. Privacy allows you to be slow. Speed is often demanded by visibility. Slow growth is more stable. It allows foundations to settle. Foundations built in haste crack under pressure. Privacy removes urgency that does not serve development. There is strength in being unknown while growing. It creates freedom. You are not trapped by expectations. You are not defined by past statements. You are free to become. Privacy accelerates growth because it keeps identity flexible. You are not locked into labels. You are a learner, not a finished product. This mindset encourages exploration. Exploration leads to discovery. When you grow privately, you develop self-reliance. You learn to encourage yourself, to correct yourself, to persist without reassurance. This self-reliance is essential for long-term mastery. Privacy also reduces distraction. There are fewer conversations to manage, fewer reactions to process, fewer explanations to give. Energy is conserved. Conserved energy fuels practice. In private growth, time feels different. You are less concerned with how long something takes and more concerned with whether it is working. This shift improves decision making. You choose effectiveness over speed. Privacy creates a container. Inside that container, effort compounds. Outside distractions cannot dilute it. Compounding is slow at first, then sudden. Privacy allows you to stay long enough for the sudden phase to arrive. When growth finally becomes visible, it appears effortless to others. They did not see the repetition, the corrections, the quiet discipline. That invisibility is not a loss. It is the reason the growth is solid. Privacy accelerates growth because it honors the natural rhythm of becoming. Seeds grow underground. Muscles grow between sessions. Understanding grows in silence. What is rushed into the open too soon rarely survives intact. In privacy, you learn to trust the process without witnesses. This trust keeps you moving when results are not yet obvious. It keeps effort steady. Steady effort transforms potential into reality without noise, without announcement, without needing to be seen. Results speak without words because reality cannot be argued with. Explanations invite debate. Claims invite doubt. Results end conversation. They stand on their own, visible, measurable, undeniable. When something is real, it does not need narration. It simply exists, and its existence answers questions before they are asked. Words are temporary. They fade as soon as they are spoken. Results remain. They carry weight over time. Anyone can promise effort. Anyone can describe intention. Few can present outcomes that endure. Endurance is the difference. What lasts has already survived resistance. Results remove the need for persuasion. Persuasion relies on language, tone, timing, and emotion. It depends on the listener. Results do not. They do not change based on mood or opinion. They are the same regardless of who is watching. This stability gives them authority. When results are present, explanations feel unnecessary. There is nothing to defend, nothing to justify, nothing to reinterpret. The work has already been done. The outcome has already formed. Words would only weaken it by attempting to add meaning where none is required. Results also reveal discipline. They show what was repeated, what was prioritized, what was sacrificed. They tell the story without telling it. You can see consistency in the structure of results. You can see patience in their depth. You can see restraint in their quality. Results speak without words because they expose truth. They reveal where effort was honest and where it was not. You cannot hide behind language once results appear. There is no room for exaggeration. Reality is precise. It shows exactly what was earned. People who rely on words often do so because results are not yet ready. Talking becomes a substitute. It creates the illusion of movement. But illusion collapses when measured against outcome. Results do not allow illusion to survive. When results exist, trust follows naturally. Trust built on words is fragile. Trust built on results is stable. It does not require reassurance. It does not need reminders. Each new outcome reinforces the last. Results also simplify communication. You do not need to explain your capacity. You demonstrate it. You do not need to describe your values. They are visible in what you produce and maintain. Communication becomes efficient because proof replaces narrative. Results are impartial. They do not favor personality, confidence, or charm. They respond only to effort, method, and time. This impartiality makes them fair. They reward those who stay consistent regardless of recognition. Results speak without words because they align perception with reality. There is no gap to manage. What people see is what is there. This alignment reduces friction. There is no need to correct misunderstandings. Misunderstandings dissolve on their own. Results also travel further than words. Words reach those who listen. Results reach those who observe. Observation does not require agreement. It only requires attention. Results attract attention naturally. When you focus on results, ego quiets. There is less need to impress, less need to compare. The work becomes central. The self becomes secondary. This shift improves quality because attention is no longer divided. Results create accountability without confrontation. They answer expectations calmly. If expectations are met, nothing needs to be said. If they are not, nothing can be said. The outcome is clear. This clarity encourages responsibility. Results also endure beyond the moment. Words belong to the present. Results shape the future. They create momentum. One result makes the next possible. This chain builds capability. Results speak without words because they cannot be misquoted. They cannot be taken out of context. They are context. This makes them reliable. Reliability is rare. It commands respect without asking for it. When results appear, criticism changes tone. It becomes quieter, more cautious. People respond differently to proof. Doubt softens. Skepticism fades. Not because minds were changed by argument, but because reality left no space for doubt. Results also protect you from overexposure. You do not need to share your process constantly. The outcome communicates enough. This allows you to return to work instead of maintaining an image. Results encourage patience. You stop rushing to speak because you are busy building. You understand that silence now creates clarity later. This understanding stabilizes effort. Results speak without words because they are costly. They require time, energy, focus, and sacrifice. Cost gives them value. Cheap statements are easy to dismiss. Costly outcomes are hard to ignore. Results also teach restraint. You learn when to speak and when not to. You no longer feel compelled to respond to every challenge. You let the work handle it. This restraint conserves energy. When results exist, leadership becomes natural. Others follow outcomes, not speeches. They align with those who demonstrate effectiveness. Influence grows without effort. Results also reduce internal conflict. You are no longer negotiating with yourself about worth or direction. Evidence provides clarity. Clarity reduces anxiety. Anxiety often fuels unnecessary speech. Results speak without words because they settle questions permanently. And not through force, but through presence. They stand as a reference point. You can return to them when doubt arises. Results also humble. They show how much work was required. They remind you of limits. This humility keeps growth ongoing. There is always another level. Results remove the need to convince yourself. When you see what you have built, belief becomes unnecessary. Knowing replaces believing. Knowing is quiet. Results also attract the right conversations. Instead of explaining intentions, you discuss improvements. Instead of defending potential, you refine performance. The quality of dialogue rises. Results speak without words because they carry their own meaning, meaning that does not depend on interpretation, meaning rooted in effort and time. Results change how you are treated, not because you demand respect, but because consistency signals reliability. Reliability is rare. Rare things are valued. Results also free you. You are no longer tied to promises. You are grounded in proof. Proof is solid. It holds you steady when opinions shift. Results speak without words because they are the final form of discipline, silence, and privacy combined. They are what remains after talking stops, after training continues, after time has done its work.